All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining on this Wednesday, October 1st, 3:01 p.m. I will call the 911 Services Enterprise Board meeting to order. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from our September 3rd meeting? Are there any comments or issues that you saw on those draft minutes? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Matt so moves.
Thank you, Matt. Second,
Second,
was that Amy?
that was Lynn.
Lynn? Sorry, my screen didn't even light up. It went so fast. Thank you, Lynn. Any additional comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. Thank you. All right, next up, public comments. Public comments are limited to up to 15 minutes total, and each member of the public may speak for up to 3 minutes on any topic relevant to the purposes of the enterprise. If any member of the public would like to speak, please indicate so now by raising your hand in Zoom to be called upon. After we address any raised hands in Zoom, we will then call for any additional comments from members of the public who have dialed in or otherwise unable to raise their hands in Zoom. So is there any member of the public who would like to make a comment? Seeing no hands, are there any members who were unable to raise their hands? Please state your name to be addressed. Hearing nothing. Gone. Public comment is closed. All right, project priority setting. Did everybody get and have a chance to look at the project idea submission spreadsheet so you could go through and maybe apply some rankings? Would anybody like to start, or would you rather me start?
And I'll just say up front, you all are so much more familiar with the details and the needs on some of these projects. So I did look through it, but and have a few that I felt like I could tell were important. The rest, I'm kind of just going to go by some guidance here and participate where I can.
Sure, appreciate that.
And it may also be beneficial to go back and double check. I believe what we decided was kind of two buckets, one for individual grants and one for statewide projects. Am I remembering that correctly?
So we identified 4 things in our fee setting memo. There was the 911 Resource Center Board, the GIS support, language accessibility, and then one which was a little more, or rather a little more vague, local authority grants. So through, I would say, local authority grants is fairly obvious that they will be grants to local authorities, but for whatever projects we feel are needed and good use of fiscal resources. The other, obviously, the 911 Resource Center, I'm working on the contract language with that, with the state's contract templates. And thank you to Kirsten and Daryl for all your feedback on those. And then that leaves GIS support and language accessibility projects. And with those as the topics, those as the kind of headers, whether we do something directly, whether we support that through additional local authority grants, how we do that is kind of up to us to decide. So I will share the ones that I put together just to get us started. So I went through that spreadsheet just with rankings of 1 through 5. The 3 at the bottom were kind of duplicate submissions, so that's why those are not ranked. 911 Resource Center, I think, is obviously was called out as one of our priorities, so I ranked that as a 5. My 4s are funding for GIS projects. And then related to that, one of my threes is Bent County's 911. I think we could support under the GIS topic or under the local authority grant topic, or heading priority, as you, depending on how you want to say it. Part of that, and to Matt's comment from our last meeting, a big portion of the GIS support, I think, is going to be dependent upon and subsequent to the current resource center GIS project. So not knowing how that exactly is going to shake out, I think will change or at least impact our best way forward in the GIS support project priority. And then I think I would love to do something toward transcription services, language accessibility services. I saw that as relatively duplicative of Reachwell's. I think Reachwell's submission is more narrow than I would like us to focus on. And I see this as being under the local authority grants so that the local authority can decide what version of language accessibility and transcription service this might apply to, whether that's a specific vendor, whether that's ENS, whether that's 911, inbound, how exactly that shakes out, I think is better at the local authority level.
Yeah, and I would agree specifically on that one. We had a Colorado users group meeting that we hosted here for, well, you were there for that, Michael, and for Everbridge users. And Everbridge actually recently announced that their language translation will be available in Q1 or Q2 of next year, so well before the legislative deadline. So Everbridge users at least won't, in theory, won't need support for this unless Everbridge decides they're going to charge money as a separate module.
Right.
So I guess that is yet to be seen. But
yeah, and that can be ENS like Everbridge and Reachwell. That can be prepared and rapid SOS services. I think I would love personally to keep that on a higher level and at the discretion of the local authority.
I agree. And then we have Daryl and Connie on. I don't know if either of you can provide an update on the GIS project.
This is Daryl. I'm not entirely sure how much I'm allowed to say because of the state procurement process and all of the confidentiality in that, but I will say that it is theoretically very close to an announcement.
Very cool. So what we could do as a suggestion is we could allocate a dollar amount, and then if that, yeah, because we had already kind of identified what that was going to be, and we can just hold that in reserve, and if it's not needed, then that's more that we could put toward local grants.
Yeah, I like that. The only other one that I wanted to call out, and I was going back and forth between 3 and 4, is local authority funding for training, especially with all the work that the Colorado Training Standards Institute has been doing toward frameworks and training compliance. I think that would be the other one that I would call out as I'm loving to see included in some manner. So any other that somebody else would like to point out as being of priority for you?
This is Matt. I took a similar approach, but actually added a factor, and the additional factor was to prioritize reasonable items of a statewide nature higher.
Okay.
So I ended up with several things similar, but a few things different from yours, your categorization.
Yeah, something you want to screen share or you want to just talk through it?
Sure, I could screen share.
Just a moment, I'll give you that.
Okay.
See here. There we go. You should be co-host now, so you should be able to screen share.
Aha. Share screen. Okay. Ooh. Okay, and can you guys see the spreadsheet?
Yep.
So taking in the factor of statewide things, we can see that I have a few more fives. Of course, two of them are essentially identical, right? In a linear ranking, in order, the top two are 1 and 1, and then we go from there to funding for training. To me, that's a big one. Sort of with that mission of level setting a baseline of training from corner to corner in the state. And then the public education, cybersecurity, that's going to be a theme of the PUC's 911 program next year. And then we get to the GIS related efforts. We know that transcription on an individual case basis is at least something that we've talked about. And we know that the legislature wants to see support for that. So for those instances where there were requests on an individual case basis, I chose to include them. I excluded Reachwell's general ask for the basically the same reason. Not everyone may wish to use Reachwell.
This is Amy. It's interesting. My top 6 were about the same as yours, Matt, but a little bit different. So mine are the resource center are my top number ones. The only things that were a little different for me were GIS was moved above the cybersecurity request, and then the public education and statewide training were flipped, but pretty close.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so the difference there would
So.
be that I sort of weighted statewide effects a little stronger.
Sure.
For our first year of our initial uses of funding for our statewide organization. Although y'all know I'm all for GIS, so thanks.
I was actually thinking, I'm surprised it's that low on your list.
Well, taking off the GIS hat and putting on the best for everyone and our statewide approach to making services better.
So I'm curious about the public education one. The only reason I ranked that lower was because I was looking at statewide impact, and I think I focused a little more directly on impact the authorities and PSAPs as opposed to impact on the public, so to speak. Although obviously there's a direct correlation there. The other thing I was thinking was viability, our bandwidth to do it. What is do you have any thoughts toward what that might look like practically. And you don't have to, I'm just curious.
If you're asking me, I honestly, this is my Monday after a super long weekend. I barely had time to do this spreadsheet, sorry. So I didn't put pen to paper or electrons to screen, if you will, in that regard. As I did think about the matter as I was going through this earlier today, and it kind of felt like, for me, the way this ranking goes is that if something's lower in the list and we don't have funding for it, they can ask again next year. If our collective board set of priorities is only able to fund the top half of the list, this is just year one.
And similarly, that, just like Amy, that's for that reason, I had ranked it from Amy's description, I think exactly like she did, where I had GIS up top, only because it coincides with some of the larger efforts around trying to get NG 911 and the EZNet up and running the way we want it. And my understanding being that while the resource center contract will ostensibly get us maybe 90% of the way there, we're going to need to fill in those gaps so that we have a unified data set for the entire state, so that we can start moving toward that next gen 911 stuff, which is, you know, kind of top of my priority list. So
I'm not, sorry,
no,
I'm not opposed to reordering those, or, you know, something more in line with that versus what's on the screen. You know, clearly I come originally from a GIS background, and I'm very much in support of that.
yeah, the only concern then that I have is that I guess, well, so here's what I would suggest. I would suggest that we kind of create our list of top. Well, I mean, we can even have, because we don't actually have that many submissions.
There's 15 here, and if we count 3 of them as duplicate, that makes it 12.
Right. So what I would like to do is, because we've already provided the PUC with our budget, so that's already locked in. The one thing that I would like to do is put the onus back on the requesters to provide a greater level of detail, a narrative, and some additional context. So, for example, the GIS data set items like Eagle and Vail, I'd like to get an understanding of what it is that they need, how the resource center project is not going to meet those needs, that kind of a thing, and get a real comprehensive submission for each of these with a lot more detail. And I think we need to kind of come up with a template for what our expectations are. Because as I was looking through this, I found myself kind of making, and we've talked about it, right? Making some guesses and assumptions and all of that. And I would like, you know, if we're going to be kind of setting aside public funds in support of particularly the local authority grants, I think we need a lot more data to go off of.
I would just add that my personal opinion is I don't think there's going to be a lot of money left over after the statewide aspects of the Resource Center's GIS project. I don't think there's going to be a lot of money left over within their $500,000 grant to fund local governing body and PSAP GIS work. My gut feeling is that if we were to fund, at least in part, for Bent County and Eagle Vale's GIS request, it won't cover it. That it won't be significant to the need. That the Resource Center's GIS project still wouldn't be able to cover it all. So we're not running afoul of the goals by funding those requests. I'm not saying we shouldn't do what you're suggesting, but I just want to throw that perspective out there for everyone.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about running afoul of the goals. It was more the submissions that we got were pretty, I mean, they were incredibly bare bones. It was basically just the title of an idea. And I feel like there's some homework to be done on, well, and even some of these have an unknown dollar amount to them. So I
A
feel
better
like
baseline.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I guess toward that, are we looking, so next on our agenda is that funding request policy. Are we looking toward kind of a more or less a full grant submission package, or are we just looking for high level but less high level, mid-level clarification? What is our ask going to be?
I'm torn because I have been on grant assessment panels before, and there are times when you've got 500 pages to read to go through all those grant proposals. So I don't want to make something that is incredibly onerous. I think the fact that we are operating in a space where all of us are more or less subject matter experts, right? Folks like Matt understand GIS far better than folks like I do, but we generally understand it. So I don't know that we need to create something that requires a deep dive in a historical context, but I would like to identify a few critical points that we require all submissions to send us. And I've got a grant submission template that we use here through the Caring for Denver Foundation that I think is actually pretty good. It's as far as grant applications go, it's not terribly onerous. Certainly nowhere near like federal grants, and we could probably even pare that down a little bit. So what I might do is take a first stab at making some edits on that, and then we can, let's see, how would that work? I guess we could work on it one at a time without violating sunshine laws and not collaborate on it until a meeting, but
sorry, Sage, through Sage forwarding it around, facilitating that.
That sounds good to me. I can facilitate that.
I'm also curious what within Article 5 of our current draft fiscal policy for such proposals would align with that. Cover letter, executive summary, organizational information, problem statement, project description.
So if, you know, Andrew, correct me if I'm hearing you, we're looking at more like an executive summary, maybe problem statement and project description, and then budget. Just kind of what is it you're looking for to accomplish without a lot of the additional detail? Is that?
Yeah, more or less. Just something that honestly will make it easier for local authorities to apply, because we're basically saying, hey, give us this, now give us this, now give us this, and easier for us to review because we can just kind of cross compare. when we're looking through, potentially dozens of grant submissions.
So in that vein, I have a question for Michael. Or the whole board. Is our intent then for this first year to not require folks who gave us these requests or ideas to also then adhere to the fiscal policy with proposal requirements that we're about to adopt?
That was kind of along the point I was just about to make, was that I feel weird. It seems like we're adding additional step or or avoiding our own steps if we were to adopt this policy. I would hate to put a bunch of extra work on either an extra step on these agencies who are nice enough and gracious enough to start us along this path, or conflict with our own policies if we're not going to make them do the final work of whatever gets adopted.
If we solicited these as suggestions,
Mm.
then they're just suggestions and not
Right.
applications for funding. And if that's the case and we adopt this policy, then we need to, by our own rules, go back to those folks and say, okay, now we have this policy. Please submit a more detailed and formal proposal according to the adopted policy.
Now, that was my thought process, was that this submission process through the Google form was just to give us an idea of
Yeah.
what the priorities are of the 911 community. Now that we kind of have that, okay, great, we've got some specifics.
I'd have to go pull the documentation that we sent out to everyone, but my feeling is these were not soliciting proposals, they were soliciting suggestions.
Yeah.
And I think we were fairly explicit about that this is to help us start down the path. This was not an official request.
For budget development. and
Right.
so forth.
Yeah.
Budget development, which was necessary for rate development.
Yeah. And at least, my past experience, anytime I'm applying to a grant, I know how much is available, which helps kind of manage expectations. So Matt, you bring up a good point. If this solicitation that gave us these items was just a suggestion, there may be others out there who were thinking, well, we'll see what the suggestions are, and then we'll submit a proposal if one of the categories that the board decides on meets our needs. And I recognize that this is the first time we're doing this, so it's going to be building the plane as we're flying it. But so I can be convinced to go either way. I don't think we necessarily need to create an official form and submission process and all of that for this first year. I think we need to work on that and refine it. But I do think we owe it to the statewide community to say, okay, here was the themes that we heard from you all. Here's what we identified as priorities for our budget. Here's what's available in each of those buckets. Here is a basic submission form where we're going to ask you for, so those of you who have submitted, we're just asking for some more detail and a little more homework. Anybody else who's interested in officially submitting a request for grant funding, here's the form. And then we give them a new deadline and go from there. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just stuck on the form idea because our policy that we're proposing to adopt today on the agenda has several items that don't really constitute a form per se, but I'm with you in spirit. So I think,
Do we want to move to the next topic of what that
Probably.
policy may or may not look like?
I was just going to suggest that. I like the discussion we've been having. It sounds like we're on similar pages in terms of prioritizing the suggestions that we've received. And good place to move on. So I'll stop sharing.
I will start sharing. So we have the draft fiscal policy. And like, it's a draft. It's to the point, of the discussion we had at the last meeting. I tried to coincide with that, but this is ours to massage and change and do what we feel is best for our enterprise and the 911 greater 911 community. So if that is a much shorter proposal version, especially for this first year, if it's a form as opposed to the kind of packet approach that is looked at here, what does that look like to you guys? What would you like to see in this initial policy? Were there any direct input or changes you would like to see?
So from y'all, I mean, I was good with the list of the proposal requirements. Is there something about this particular list in you all's mind that is particularly not doable or complicated for this round?
Which
No.
list, the proposal list? Or
I'm
you're talking
sorry,
about the
Article
requests?
5. Article 5.
Oh, okay.
The proposal requirements.
So as the one who started us down this road, I will raise my hand and say I didn't get to page 2 of the
Yeah.
fiscal policy. So here I was thinking, hey, we need to come up with something, and hey, look at this, we came up with something. So I guess I will amend my suggestion to say in the future, again, to just kind of assist in both standardizing submissions and everything else, we could create a form document that follows this, just to kind of help hold their hands through, because in my experience, without that, you can kind of get stuff where, well, yeah, we gave you a project description, but we put it in after the supporting documentation, and so you're kind of hunting around. But I think this covers the items that we need. And then, we can adjust this down the line if we need to say, hey, we need to remind people to provide XYZ.
This is Amy. I agree with that. I have not been involved in much grant writing or receiving at this point, but my opinion is I think this looks like a good list to me. I think anytime you're kind of handing over funds of this nature, that asking for these types of descriptions and statements is an acceptable way to go.
Did we borrow this from 988? They were working on something similar, or someone else?
No, this was, I used ChatGPT and some previous grants that I had applied for to cobble together.
Right on.
And it seems like to me, if any one of these bullet items in Article 5 just simply isn't applicable to the situation and what they're asking, then, they can indicate on there, why or anything like that. But
yeah, and I think it's written in such a way that the only thing that might not be would be some kind of supporting documentation, may or may not to some extent, but I think everybody should have what's the problem, how are we going to fix it, and how much money do we need for it.
But for example, in the organizational budget, statement of assets and cash reserves may not be terribly relevant to PUC funding, for example, or something. So there may be onesie twosies in here, that don't work for the particular application, but they could indicate in their why. But I think it's pretty comprehensive. It'll give us a lot more information than we have currently.
That was a tough part for me when I came to prioritizing, because while I do think that, GIS projects now that some are obviously a high item for me, it was looking at, okay, what exactly are they requesting? Because some had, I'd have to pull it up to look. I don't have it readily available, but $45,000 each for, I think it was an access console or something. It might have been something like that, but how many are you requesting? Like, that helps me
Mhm.
kind of align a little bit. Well, we're not going to have the money for that because we're moving this up to the, higher. So I think having this additional information will help me make a better, more informed decision.
Another aspect that came to mind while I was looking at the spreadsheet from before was that we don't necessarily have to fund any of these projects in full either.
Right.
Good point. Good point.
And the caveat that goes with that is if we don't fund it in full, will it happen? In other words, do we, if we give $100,000 towards a $200,000 project, and by what means do we ensure that $100,000 gets used for the intended purpose that the requestor is going to come up with the other and actually do the project? I do want to say on the, where is it? The organization's budget, statement of assets, and so forth. If Bent County is applying for funding for 911 mapping, and the Montrose Emergency Telephone Service Authority is applying for funding and mapping, as a citizen of the state of Colorado, I would rather see this board award that to Bent than the Montrose Emergency Telephone Service Authority. I don't think they have the same level of wherewithal that we have.
And I think that's why, I think that was one of the things we added at the last meeting.
Yep.
Was to understand what is it you could do? Would this be a nice to have, or you're not going to do it without this help? So I think kind of combining these two discussions, one of the things that kind of comes to my mind is through our budgeting process, we kind of set the projects that we wanted to prioritize. We've expressed 911 Resource Center, GIS, local authority grants, and language accessibility. The exercise in prioritizing the projects that were submitted, I think is the way I see it is that's for us. That's for us to kind of help level set, help open discussion. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we have these, at least for this first year, we have these dollar amounts more or less set aside, more or less flagged for those purposes. And until we have this fiscal policy, until we open submission and receive however many we receive back, then we go back with these 4 priorities in mind. And that's where we decide, okay, which one fits into which box, and which box do we think is more important than the other. That's how I see it going. So I guess with that, are there any changes we would like to see to the draft fiscal policy? Are we feeling like we're in a place that we can potentially vote on it and adopt it today? Or do you want to sit on this and bring it back to next month?
Who needs more time?
I think I just have one question that got triggered here. If is there, and I did read it, I just don't recall. I don't think there's anything in here. Do we need to have anything around funding that is not used or anything is, what happens with the funding? Does it come back? Does it, they just continue to have it? And
You're talking about like if, let's
If
say
it-
you were
yeah.
awarded $100,000 grant and you only used 95 of it?
yeah,
Or-
potentially, or we only had 100 to give, but they really couldn't, do anything with the 100. I mean, I suppose they could not accept the grant once we give it, if we only give a partial. But yeah, to your point, you might have, yeah, funding that's left over. I don't know. If they don't use it in full, do we, or need it in full at the end of the day? Is it returned? Do they keep it? What happens?
I
Maybe we
would
could-
say,
Oh, sorry.
sorry, go ahead, Amy. I talk enough.
Oh, no, that's okay. No, I was thinking that we would maybe put that in those kind of details, like the funding agreement.
Okay,
That's what I was thinking.
Agreed. And I
Good
think
point.
I would rather not have it as part of the policy because I think it could be case by case. Is this something where we know it's a $200,000 project and we're only giving them one versus we're not sure how much it's going to be. And maybe as part of that funding agreement, it'll be reimbursement rather than money up front. And that I think we can arrange on a case by case based
Okay.
on the
Okay.
need in the project, unless any of you feel differently.
no, that works. Well, that works for me. I just wanted to make sure it was thought through.
I agree with Amy. I'm not opposed to some sort of wording in the policy that says that may be the case.
Do you have an example of what you would like to see and where?
I'm wondering if Lynn does.
No, I'm actually okay. I think there's nothing in here that precludes us, right, from developing different scenarios. Doing it on a case by case basis and having different, I guess, requirements based on that particular grant. So if there's nothing, if we have the flexibility within each grant to say, this one was only going to be a partial, so here's the conditions we want around it, and this one's going to be full, and if you have if you don't spend it all, here's what's happening, and we have that. There's nothing here that precludes us from doing that. I'm okay with not having any language in here.
So, rhetorical question. This is our fiscal policy, or part of our policy, which could be changed by future versions of this board. But what documentation do we have for ourselves and future versions of this board that's a point that matters? That is the kind of thing that would go in a fiscal policy. It is our policy that we may do such things.
So, yeah. Or can we make it as simple as terms and conditions for the grant will be determined on an individual case basis and may not, I don't know how to say this shortly, but may not be the same for every grant.
Something like terms and conditions may include funding methods and timing which will be considered on a case-by-case basis based on the nature of the project.
Yeah, and I would might add in there, terms and conditions may include but not be limited to.
And I would add after timing, a new phrase which says, which may include return of unused funds. Or something of that nature. Whatever, yeah.
Something like that.
Seems good.
Yep, I like that.
Do we need to have a policy about, and I think that's what, like, providing the organizational budget leads to, but I know some grant programs have rules about supplanting existing funds, that grants can be used to augment but not supplant existing funds. Is that something we need to have a policy about, or are we concerned about that at all?
I think it's helpful. Because I know in my past, we did get in it's, the situation of kind of fund shifting. They had available funds and then chose to do something else with it, and then came in for surcharge increases because they could, so I don't know if it gets kind of tricky to know when you're in that situation or not, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly, like, if Denver were to submit money for a contract that we already have, right, and it basically supplanting the budget that I've put toward that contract with enterprise dollars, that's the kind of thing we want to avoid.
Yeah.
Is that I guess, is that a question that could be considered in our overall decision-making, or is that a line in the sand that this must be a new project, this can't be supplanting funds? What is the threshold there that you're thinking?
I mean, we could just put it under eligibility requirements. Funds being requested are for a net new project or effort and are not supplanting existing funding.
We could add a bullet point that requires a certification that such funds will not supplant. So is that eligibility, or is that a Article 3 item?
That goes toward my question. Is this a line in the sand that we are making a requirement, or is this just a bullet point in the evaluation phase? That, for me, that's what moves it between
Mhm.
2 and 3. Is this a requirement, or is this a data point?
If we're going to have it in this policy, I would make it a requirement.
I would agree.
So it would have to be Article 5, proposal requirements.
Although I would still argue that you're not eligible to even submit if the intention is to supplant existing funding.
You could put a bullet point in each of those to that aspect.
Yeah,
Intent in the eligibility and then certification in 5.
I like that.
I'm getting a reverse 911 call.
Tell them you're not interested in hang up.
911's broken. Don't bother. I don't know what's going on.
So then ineligibility, certify that requesting funds or because an organization must certify that requested funds will not be used to supplant existing funds and projects.
I think I would
Or,
put the certification requirement in the new bullet point in Article 5. And in this Article 2, I would phrase it as intent.
well,
Right, so we want a written certification under the requirements in 5, but here it's more about intent.
so intend for the requested funds.
Intend that the requested funds will not be.
Okay. So then in the requirements,
Certify in writing. Mhm.
that.
Would,
So I guess my
what if somebody has a vendor providing a service and they want to remove them and move to a new vendor that is more expensive and they're requesting grant funds to help cover the difference? Well, in that case, it's augmenting, not supplanting, so there's no issue there. So I would just take out projects and just put funding, because projects might confuse people.
in both places, I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next question. Do we need, we probably need to have an annual report that we publish on our website with all the grants that we put out, who they went to and the dollar amount?
I believe that is called out in the CRS as far as our reporting to the state. But we can certainly, if it doesn't specify it needs to be on the website, we can certainly proactively do that ourselves. So we are required to prepare and submit an annual financial report. Annual financial report to Legislative Council and Joint Budget Committee. Must include projected revenues and expenditures and proposed budget for the fiscal year. And we shall post it on our website. I want to say, I'm trying to find it. I want to say there were 2 reports that we needed. We needed to have the report to the budget, the state budget committee for budget. Daryl, I knew you would be ahead of me. Go ahead, sir.
You may also be thinking of the requirement that the PUC include a section about the 911 enterprises activities in the annual State of 911 report.
Yes, sir. That is the one I was looking for. And I think whether or not it spells it out, I can't find the language of it. I think it is upon us to be good fiscal stewards to spell out as much as possible the use of the public's fund.
Question for Kirsten. If we have like a document like this, could we make it a shared document where, you know, in between meetings, all of us can kind of add comments and stuff? Would that be allowable as long as we go through all those comments in a public meeting?
That is an interesting question. Off the top of my head, I would assume no. But I can get back to you on that.
That'd be great. I'm just thinking for some of this stuff, and particularly as I'm going through this, you know, draft document, it'd be, I mean, it's just, if we have to kind of dedicate meetings to going through language and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've never actually received that specific question.
Okay.
Or in the alternative, 2 board members working together on such a document to then discuss at another meeting. It's
I
not,
will check into that.
so I'm just trying to volunteer Andrew and Michael to work on this.
We'll table that discussion.
Yeah,
I suppose, you know, 2 questions we've had previously about like the budget committee, as long as it's not a body making decisions.
yeah.
If we formed an ad hoc policy committee, obviously we're not trying to get around anything. We're trying to be effective and efficient in our use of time.
No decision making.
Exactly. No decision making, an advisory comment capacity.
Have we, I can't remember if it was with this board or another board where we discussed that option.
We discussed it for our budget committee,
Mm,
and the direction was we could do it as long as that committee made no decisions, no motions, no votes, and brought details and advice back to
okay,
the main board.
okay.
Yeah.
And would the meetings be open to the public?
I mean, they certainly could be. You know, my initial thought process is along that same lines, right? If we're collaboratively adding notes and suggesting edits to a document, we're not voting on anything, we're not making any decisions, we're just kind of, all adding notes to the same document. The decisions would be made in a public meeting.
So Andrew,
Yeah.
you're thinking a document on Google Drive with certain people having edit or suggested edit rights to the document.
Yep.
Just for purposes of developing draft proposed only wording for
Correct.
collaboration. So not
So-
even a meeting, Kirsten, but just through a document on Google Drive.
Unfortunately, OML law does count even text messages or emails as a meeting. So I would assume making comments on something would also be counted as a meeting. And I can double check that for you. I think the difference between doing sort of a subcommittee and making the comments is that you could open the subcommittee and make it a noticed public meeting, which would make that acceptable.
Could we
Um,
also make the Google document publicly viewable and just limit editing privileges to board members?
Sorry. That is an interesting question. I'm so sorry.
We like to throw curveballs.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm dog sitting. I didn't know she would have that reaction. But yeah, no, that is an interesting question. I am so sorry. I will look into that.
We can't hear the dog for what it's worth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Google's quick enough on the draw there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will look into that because that is an interesting question. If you did make the document public, it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
911 professionals always think outside the box.
Yeah. We're problem solvers, man. I tell you what.
For sure. So, I know we're getting at time here, but I did have one question about, is there anything we need to identify in here? Is there anything we intend, have to, or will be making public as far as grant applications or reports or anything else such that we need any sort of statement in here around making documents public?
Just some kind of advisement somewhere around here that documents are open to disclosure.
Yeah, or something. I don't know what's typical. I haven't done a lot of grant applications either, so I don't know what's typical in terms of what gets published or what doesn't get published, but there may be certain details out of that we do feel like we need to make public. So I'm not quite sure how to state it. The thought just popped into my head.
That would be an interesting point. Kirsten, I don't know if you have any tips around that, maybe just a line at the end here to clearly label any confidential material as documents may be required for disclosure or documents may be disclosed as required by law.
Yeah, I don't think that could hurt.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of what parts of grant funding proposals, things like that are mandated by Cora. Does anybody, like if anybody put a Cora request in for something like that, does anybody know that offhand? Just curious.
The only thing that comes to mind for me is since we're asking for project budget justification, some vendors may require their pricing structure to be confidential. And so I know, like for some RFPs we've had, 99% of it is confidential, but only the grand total is open for disclosure. Sure.
Yeah. Vendor info.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I know we're over time. Kirsten, I'll shoot you an email. I've got some additional questions for you.
Sure,
So,
that sounds great.
cool.
All right. So pending the decision there, Sage will bring the fiscal policy back to the agenda for next month, which our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 5th at 3 p.m. Any additional discussion or open board comments before we close out? And I appreciate everybody's participation today.
Thank you, Michael, for working on this.
It's a collaborative effort, Matt.
For getting it started then.
All right, then if everybody is good for the day, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I will second.
Thank you. Heard Lynn first for the motion, and then Andrew is the second. And with that, have a glorious day. It is 4:07 p.m. and we are adjourned.
Take care.
All right.
everybody.
Okay, everybody.